There are two big news stories currently getting a lot of attention, not just on social media, but in well-respected mainstream newspapers and even in world governments. At first blush, it might seem like there's nothing really in common between them. Story number one is a report from the Times in the UK claiming fresh evidence that proves SARS-CoV-2 was developed in a Chinese laboratory as a bioweapon and accidentally released into the general population. Story number two is a former US official who claims to have evidence that the government is hiding the existence of crashed alien spaceships. So, COVID and aliens, what do they have in common? Several things, actually. Both are masquerading as news, where in fact there doesn't appear to be any new information that we didn't already know for at least a year. Both have no solid evidence to back them up, and I've already made videos about both of these topics long before the current news cycle. Let's start with the COVID story. Almost exactly 2 years ago, I talked about the evidence for and against the lab leak hypothesis. I suggest you go watch that in full if you're interested in the subject, but here's a quick recap. At the start of the COVID pandemic, researchers thought that there was a good chance that SARS-CoV-2 was human-made. So the genetic makeup of the virus was an intense topic of interest. But a month or two later, a coalition of virologists published their results in Nature, finding that actually it is not a laboratory construct or a purposefully manipulated virus. All features of this coronavirus are found in existing related coronaviruses, and the evidence suggests multiple clear paths of natural selection that can lead to this result. The only evidence in favor of SARS-CoV-2 being purposefully manipulated comes from non-virologists, arguing that it features a relatively rare sequence of the genome that's often used by researchers to supercharge a virus. In response to that, a large consensus of virologists argued that that sequence is found in all coronaviruses in some frequency, and if it was not naturally selected for in SARS-CoV-2, then we would expect to see that sequence drop out of the virus as it mutates through the human population. Not only did that not happen when this argument first came up in 2021, but I'm pretty sure it hasn't happened many variants later here in 2023. So then, what's with this new Times expose? Well, the groundbreaking news they present is unfortunately hidden behind a paywall, but lucky for us, some virologists have actually managed to read the article and dissect it for us. I'll direct interested people to check out this thread from Dr. Angela Rasmussen of the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada, who not only gives a detailed breakdown of each of the report's key points, but who also provides key context suggesting that the anonymous sources the Times uses are the exact same people who have been trying to peddle this lab leak nonsense for the past several years. Most notably, Dr. David Asher, who helped investigate COVID origins for Trump's State Department and who thinks that a natural origin for coronavirus would involve a pangolin fucking a bat. But yeah, she confirms it's all the same stuff rehashed from 2021. I highly recommend diving into her thread and following all of the links if that kind of thing interests you. Okay, so how about those aliens? First, let me say that I most recently talked about this topic just a few months ago, and if you don't feel like watching that video, the basic news was that it appears that someone has been pranking public intellectuals like Sam Harris and Eric Weinstein, stringing them along and telling them that anytime now they're going to fly these guys into the desert and show them some aliens. They've been doing this to them for years, and while Harris seems to have figured out that he's being played, Weinstein remains convinced that at some point Lucy's gonna let him kick that football. On to the current news. David Charles Grush served as the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency's representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 till 2022. Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, or UAPs, is the new fancier name for UFOs. Grush claims to have evidence that the task force has been illegally withholding evidence from Congress, that for decades the government has been collecting intact vehicles of exotic origin, non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial or unknown origin, based on the vehicle morphologies and material science testing and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures. Grush is currently presenting this evidence to certain congressional committees behind closed doors due to the fact that it involves classified information, which, of course, can only be viewed by people with the proper clearance or whoever the guy is that cleans the bathrooms at Mar-a-Lago. Now, I've been talking about UFO BS for 15 years or so, and while this news might seem really exciting because Congress is taking it seriously and this guy's well respected and he had a very serious job and blah, blah, blah. I'd like to assure you that this is all exactly the same shit that has been happening repeatedly since 1950 or so. I'm not exaggerating, literally like 70 plus years of this exact stuff. There have been some incredible claims, and the U.S. government has not only believed them, but spent millions, billions of taxpayer dollars investigating them. If you've never read John Ronson's excellent book, Men Who Stare at Goats, or seen the movie, please go read the book right now. Learn more about how nearly every level of the U.S. government, every branch, every department has at some point probably spent some time looking into some of the stupidest shit you can imagine. The title of the book refers to a martial arts instructor who claimed he once killed a goat by staring at it very hard, who was then subsequently recruited by the U.S. Army to train special forces in killing goats by staring at them. So yeah, let's not get too enamored with a guy just because other military personnel respect them or the government is paying attention to them. The average military recruit doesn't get into the military based on their ability to think critically, and that's true for Congress critters as well. When it comes specifically to U.S. government officials being completely fooled by crackpots who think UFOs and aliens are real, you can get a really good overview in this Politico article, which details how a billionaire real estate developer and a group of oddball UFO fans convinced U.S. Senator Harry Reid to give the Defense Department funding to research UFOs, funding that went in part right back to that billionaire real estate developer. That lucky fellow is Robert Bigelow, the owner of Budget Suites of America, and also the former owner of Skinwalker Ranch, a property in Utah that just prior to its sale to Bigelow in 1996 suddenly became famous for hosting a multitude of paranormal and extraterrestrial activities, despite the fact that the family that lived there for 50 years prior to that say they never experienced anything of the sort. In 2017, Bigelow sold that ranch to Brandon Fugal, who trademarked the name and turned it into a book and a movie, a TV series on the History Channel starring Eric Bard as principal investigator and chief scientist at Skinwalker Ranch. Just to bring it all back around, Eric Weinstein is super impressed with Eric Bard.
I know Brandon Fugal, the owner of the ranch, and I know Eric Bard. We keep talking via phone. Eric Bard is like almost the only other person who has some idea of what differential forms are, tensor analysis is. He's a sober, normal human being sitting out there on a ranch trying to figure out what the hell he's looking at. I don't think he's lying to me. And I don't think Brandon is lying to me.
Anyway, yeah, David Grush appears to be joining a long history of kooks, frauds, and con artists who have convinced powerful people that they have evidence of Earth being visited by aliens. Why do I say appears to be? Well, because I haven't seen the evidence that Grush has. Maybe it's really convincing, but here's why I'm going to hold off on my welcome alien overlords party. Grush has given some interviews, and here are some important nuggets of info he's dropped. He's never actually seen the spaceships, but he has seen some interesting photos and read some very interesting reports. Some of the spaceships are the size of football fields and contain alien corpses. The spaceships might not be from space. They might be from another dimension. Another dimension? another dimension. Some reports state that aliens have killed people, but now there's an agreement between the government and the aliens, so they stopped doing that. That said, the government has also killed people to keep that agreement secret, which seems a little hypocritical from the aliens' perspective. One of the spaceships fell into U.S. hands when Pope Pius XII told the United States that Benito Mussolini had a spaceship. Yes, the Pope helped the U.S. military conduct a secret operation to steal a UFO from Mussolini. Yes, I'm working on the script now. I should have it to a Hollywood agent by next Thursday. Details to come. Oh, and Brett Weinstein, brother of Eric Weinstein, says that Grush has been telling people that he and Brett are friends, even though Brett says he's never even met him. Brett suggests Grush might be confusing him with his UFO-loving brother. Let's see what Eric has to say about that. Oh, right. So I think it's probably a good idea to be a little skeptical of David Grush just in general, like anything he says. But there's also a reason to be very skeptical about any person who claims that aliens have crashed spaceships into Earth and the government is hiding it from you. Just before I finished writing this video, I happened across this excellent thread from James Harris of the American Information Integrity Alliance. And he details all this very nicely if you want to read that. But just in case you're in a hurry, again, I'm going to sum things up. Just to get to Earth, an alien civilization would need incredibly advanced technology, allowing them to travel at the speed of light or have enough food and fuel for thousands of years, plus ships equipped to withstand cosmic radiation, all of which could be done. But imagine this advanced civilization that manages to solve all of these problems. They get to Earth and then they just eat shit. Like, they did all of that. They made it all that way just to lose their navigation abilities at the last second and crash into a 7-Eleven, like my neighbor's kid the day she got her learner's permit. And then the government picks up the resulting mess and for the past 70 years has managed to do exactly nothing with it in terms of advancing our own technology. This is the same government that invested millions of dollars trying to develop telepaths who could spy on Russia during the Cold War. That government hasn't introduced any new technology from alien spacecraft sitting in storage. It's a big barrier to overcome, logically speaking. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and I'll be very impressed if Grush has it. And all that brings me back around to the lab leak hypothesis. I and every serious expert in these fields maintain an open mind. The lab leak hypothesis was disproved by virologists who thought it was true at the outset. And as I said in my previous video on the topic, virologists continue investigating the exact origins of SARS-CoV-2 because it's important to our understanding of disease and our ability to fight future pandemics. It's important to know exactly how SARS-CoV-2 came to be. These people aren't just putting their fingers in their ears and ignoring evidence because they don't like the political party espousing a particular hypothesis. They're actively continuing to investigate. The same is true for alien life. Astrobiologists, planetary geologists, astrophysicists, and astronomers aren't saying that aliens can't possibly exist. They're out there working with organizations like the SETI Institute, where currently 100 scientists are conducting experiments to detect radio and light signals from extraterrestrial life and trying to better understand the likely prevalence of life throughout our universe. They would be thrilled to learn that an alien spacecraft has been found here on Earth. But from the day that institute began their search for extraterrestrial life in 1985, up until this very day, they have not found a single clear indication of life, past or present, beyond the Earth. So yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath on either the lab leak hypothesis or the great UFO conspiracy turning out to be true. And neither should you. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.